Have you ever felt that gut-wrenching moment when someone you care about starts pulling away? Maybe they're distancing themselves, avoiding your texts, or worse, ignoring you entirely. It's confusing, painful, and feels like watching a door slowly close while you're powerless to stop it. You panic, you react, you try to fix things quickly. But more often than not, those frantic actions make everything worse. It's like throwing fuel on a fire when you desperately want to put it out. Let's pause for a second. Why does this happen? Why is our instinct to chase, to explain, to hold on tightly when we see someone slipping away? And most importantly, how can we stop ourselves from spiraling into actions that damage not only the relationship, but also our self-worth? Here's the truth. How you handle this moment of emotional turmoil has the power to shape not just your relationships, but also your personal growth. As the ancient Stoics remind us, you cannot control others, you can only control yourself. The problem lies not in the distance itself, but in how you respond to it. Do you act out of fear and desperation, or do you stand firm and navigate the storm with strength, clarity, and composure? In this guide, I'll walk you through the 10 critical mistakes you must avoid when someone distances themselves or ignores you. These aren't just empty platitudes. They're actionable, transformative insights rooted in Stoicism and timeless wisdom. Each one has the power to shift your perspective, rebuild your strength, and help you approach relationships with integrity. Here's my promise. By the time you finish this, you'll feel more in control of yourself and better equipped to navigate emotional challenges. These lessons are for you, whether you've been through this before or you're facing it now. And remember, the last part might just hold the most powerful insight of all. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see a new way forward, one that allows you to grow stronger, even when someone you care about pulls away. So let's begin. 1. Never lose your calm and temper. Imagine you're standing in front of a dam holding back an immense reservoir of water. Everything seems steady, but suddenly cracks begin to form. Pressure builds and your instinct is to lash out, hammering at those cracks with frustration and anger. The result: the dam breaks. The water floods everything in its path, and nothing is left standing, not even you. That's what happens when you lose your temper in moments of emotional turmoil. When someone pulls away, your mind races. Why are they doing this? Did I do something wrong? How can I fix it? The storm inside you builds: anger, confusion, rejection. Your natural reaction might be to confront them, send long emotional texts, raise your voice, or demand explanations. You think these actions will bring you closer to resolution. Instead, they drive the wedge even deeper. Now, let me ask you this. Has losing your temper ever solved anything? Have angry outbursts ever brought someone back? Or have they only left you feeling regretful and small? The problem with losing your temper is that it shifts the focus away from the real issue. Instead of understanding the distance, the conversation becomes about your reaction, your anger, your desperation. Suddenly, you're the unstable one, the emotional one. You end up apologizing for how you acted, not resolving the reason they pulled away in the first place. This doesn't just hurt the relationship, it chips away at your own sense of dignity and self-respect. You might tell yourself, I couldn't help it. I was hurt. But here's where Stoicism offers us clarity. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. You do have a choice. Losing your temper might feel instinctual, but it's not inevitable. So what should you do when anger starts bubbling up inside you? First, pause. When you feel that storm rising, count to 10. Take a deep breath. This small moment of stillness creates space between your emotions and your actions. It reminds you that you are in control of yourself. You don't have to react impulsively. Second, remind yourself, this is temporary, but my words and actions are permanent. Anger might feel powerful in the moment, but its consequences are lasting. Are you willing to risk damaging the connection or your self-respect just because you couldn't hold back your emotions? Third, accept that it's okay to feel hurt. You are human. Emotions are natural, but feeling something doesn't mean you have to act on it. Repeat this simple affirmation. I choose calm over chaos. It's a powerful statement because it reminds you that staying calm is a choice, one that reflects your strength, not your weakness. Now picture yourself as the captain of a ship caught in a storm. The waves are crashing, the winds are howling, and chaos is everywhere. If you lose control and abandon the helm, the ship is doomed. But if you grip the wheel, steady yourself, and navigate carefully, you give the ship and everyone aboard a chance to survive. Relationships work the same way. When someone distances themselves, staying calm doesn't mean you're ignoring the problem. It means you're choosing to navigate the uncertainty with wisdom and strength. It means you're choosing to be the best version of yourself, no matter how they behave. But what if you've already lost your temper? What if you've reacted impulsively and now feel the sting of regret? Let me tell you this: mistakes do not define you. What matters is what you do next. Take responsibility for your actions, not with excessive self-blame, but with humility. Say, I realize I overreacted, and I'm working on managing my emotions better. Then, commit to doing better moving forward. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. It happens when you learn from missteps and course correct with purpose. You might still feel the urge to send that text, make that call, or let them know how you feel. But remember, restraint is power. True strength lies in choosing calmness when chaos tempts you to react. It's the mark of someone who is grounded, resilient, and wise. And that is the person you want to be. So the next time you feel anger rising, picture yourself as that captain. Grip the wheel. Hold steady. Say to yourself, I choose calm over chaos. Because when the storm passes, and it will, you'll emerge stronger, wiser, and more in control of yourself than ever before. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to comment below. I choose calm over chaos. Let it be a declaration of your commitment to staying strong, no matter what challenges come your way. And if you're ready to learn the next lesson, stick with me, because things are about to get even more powerful. 2. Don't neglect your own life. Imagine this. You're standing in a beautiful garden surrounded by vibrant flowers. Each one represents something meaningful: your passions, your friendships, your goals, your personal growth. But then, one flower starts to wilt. Your attention becomes fixated on it. You stop watering the rest of the garden. You ignore the flowers that are thriving. Day by day, the entire garden begins to wither because you were so focused on saving that single flower. When someone you care about distances themselves, it's easy to let them become the center of your world. You stop focusing on your own life, your own happiness, and instead pour all your energy into them, waiting, hoping, and obsessing. You tell yourself, I'll get back to my life once they come back. But here's the reality. Waiting doesn't fix the situation. It only diminishes you. Think about it. What message are you sending to them and to yourself when you abandon your own life? You're telling yourself that your worth depends on their presence. You're telling them that your world revolves around them, even when they've pulled away. That kind of dependency doesn't draw someone back. It pushes them further away. Why? Because people are naturally drawn to those who are living fully, confidently, and independently, not to those who have stopped thriving. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever been inspired by someone who's simply waiting? Have you ever looked at someone who put their life on hold and thought, wow, I admire how they're just sitting there? Of course not. We admire people who keep going, people who grow stronger through challenges, people who invest in themselves no matter what's happening around them. That's the kind of person you can become. That's the person who earns respect, not just from others, but from themselves. So what do you do when you feel the urge to sit in that metaphorical dark room, staring at the door, waiting for them to return? First, remind yourself that your life doesn't stop because someone pulled away. You have passions, goals, and relationships that matter. Use this time as an opportunity not to wait, but to thrive. Start small. Revisit a hobby you've been neglecting, something that lights you up and reminds you of who you are. Spend time with friends who lift you up. Set a new goal, no matter how small, and take one step toward it every day. Focus on your health, your career, your creativity, anything that helps you feel alive and fulfilled. Because here's the truth. The more you invest in yourself, the more confident and grounded you become. And that energy is magnetic. Let me give you a different way to look at this situation. Imagine you're a tree. Even when the storms come and the winds howl, the tree doesn't stop growing. Its roots dig deeper. Its branches stretch higher. The tree doesn't wither just because the weather has changed. Instead, it uses the challenge to grow stronger. You are that tree. You are capable of thriving, even when someone else steps back. And remember this, your value doesn't decrease just because someone else fails to see it. You are worthy just as you are. Their distance doesn't change that. So don't neglect your life, hoping they'll return to validate you. Instead, focus on becoming the kind of person who doesn't need someone else to feel whole. That's real strength. That's real freedom. Now, if you're reading this and realizing that you have been putting your life on hold, don't beat yourself up. You're human. It's natural to get caught up when emotions are running high. But this is your chance to turn things around. Take responsibility for how you've been living and make the decision to show up for yourself starting today. Not tomorrow, today. I want you to repeat this to yourself right now. I grow stronger by living fully. Write it down. Say it out loud. Because when you commit to living fully, you're sending a powerful message to yourself and the world. I will not shrink. I will not wait. I will thrive. So let me ask you, what's one small step you can take today to focus on yourself? Is it picking up that book you've been meaning to read? Calling a friend you haven't seen in months? Signing up for that class you've been putting off? Whatever it is, do it. Don't let another day go by waiting in the dark when you have the power to turn on the light. And here's where I need you to take action right now. If this message resonated with you, if you're ready to start living fully and prioritizing yourself, hit the like button and comment number 1 below. I want to know you're committed to showing up for yourself. I want you to claim that first step toward growth. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to this channel. This is a space where we focus on strength, wisdom, and personal growth rooted in timeless principles like Stoicism. By subscribing, you're joining a community of people who are committed to living with resilience and clarity. Together, we'll keep growing stronger. Remember, you are not a shadow of someone else's presence. You are your own light. So stand tall, keep thriving, and let your life be a reflection of who you truly are, not a reaction to someone else's behavior. 3. Respect their space. Imagine this. You see someone you care about pulling away like a delicate plant beginning to droop. Your instinct is to hover, watering it excessively, prodding the soil, moving it into more sunlight. But sometimes the plant doesn't need more of you. It needs space to breathe, time to reset. Your care, however well-intentioned, might be smothering it. Relationships are no different. When someone distances themselves, our first reaction is often to close the gap immediately. We text more, we call more, we try to fix things as quickly as possible. Why? Because uncertainty feels unbearable. It leaves us scrambling for answers, for reassurance, for control. But ironically, the very actions meant to bring someone back often push them even further away. Pause and ask yourself, what message am I sending when I don't respect their space? You might think you're showing love, commitment, and effort. But from their perspective, it can feel overwhelming, like you're not honoring their need for distance or their autonomy as a person. It's as if you're gripping a handful of sand too tightly, only to watch the grains slip through your fingers. The harder you hold, the more they escape. Now here's the tough truth. You cannot force closeness. Just as fire needs oxygen to burn, relationships need breathing room to grow. When someone asks for space, through their words or their actions, it's not your job to convince them otherwise. It's your job to trust the process, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. But I know what you might be thinking. What if they forget about me? What if they move on? Shouldn't I at least remind them I'm here? These questions stem from fear, the fear of loss, of being left behind. Yet Stoicism teaches us to separate what we can control from what we cannot. You cannot control their thoughts, feelings, or decisions, but you can control your response. And the strongest response you can give is restraint. Restraint is not a lack of care. It's a demonstration of respect for them, for their boundaries, and for yourself. It shows that you trust them enough to take the time they need and trust yourself enough to handle whatever comes next. This doesn't mean ignoring them completely or pretending you don't care. It means letting go of the urge to chase, to fix, to force a connection that needs time to breathe. So how do you respect someone's space while still honoring your feelings? First, take a step back. Pause any urge to reach out impulsively. Breathe through the discomfort of not knowing what they're thinking or feeling. This is hard, but it's also where you grow. Remember, discomfort is not something to be avoided. It's a teacher. It's a sign that you're practicing something that will make you stronger. Second, focus on what you can control. Yourself. Use this time to reflect on the relationship and what it's teaching you. Are there patterns that need your attention? Are there areas where you can grow personally, emotionally, or spiritually? Distance is not always a rejection. Sometimes it's an opportunity for both people to step back, reflect, and return with clarity. Third, when the time comes to communicate, when they're ready, and if the relationship allows it, speak with calmness and intention. Instead of bombarding them with demands or questions, keep it simple and respectful. I've noticed some distance, and I want you to know I respect your need for space. I'm here when you're ready to talk. There's something powerful about a message like this. It's not about forcing them back or making them feel guilty. It's about showing them and yourself that you're grounded, mature, and capable of handling uncertainty with grace. In moments like these, remind yourself of the wisdom from Stoicism. Accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. Loving someone with all your heart doesn't mean clinging to them desperately. It means honoring the connection while also honoring their needs, even when those needs feel hard to accept. Now, what happens if you've already crossed the line? If you've texted too much, pushed too hard, or failed to respect their space? First, forgive yourself. You're human. You're learning. And learning often means making mistakes. Recognize where you went wrong, and then commit to a different approach moving forward. A simple acknowledgement can go a long way. I realize I may have come on too strong. I respect your need for space, and I'll give you the time you need. This isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's the kind of maturity that earns respect, both from others and from yourself. Because here's the thing. Respecting someone's space doesn't just show that you care about them. It shows that you care about your own growth. It's a reflection of your emotional strength, your ability to pause, and your trust in the process of life. And trust is key here. Trust that if the relationship is meant to be, the distance will serve as a bridge, not a barrier. Trust that the person who values you will return, not because you chased them, but because they chose to. And most of all, trust yourself that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. So ask yourself, what can I do right now to respect their space while focusing on my own growth? Can I shift my energy towards something that makes me feel fulfilled? Can I sit with the discomfort of uncertainty without letting it control me? These are the moments that test us. And these are the moments that make us stronger. When you respect someone's space, you're not losing them. You're showing them, and yourself, that your love is rooted in trust, not fear. You're creating the kind of connection that has the chance to flourish naturally. So take a deep breath, let go of the need to control, and remind yourself, I trust the process. Because in the end, the relationships that are meant to thrive will find their way back. And the version of yourself you're becoming in the meantime, that's someone worth celebrating. 4. Don't assume it's the end. Picture this. You're reading a book, and halfway through, the story takes an unexpected turn. The characters drift apart, the plot thickens, and uncertainty fills the pages. In that moment, you feel tempted to close the book, convinced the ending can't possibly be good. But if you stop reading, you'll never see how the story unfolds. You'll never know how the characters grow, how challenges transform them, or how the resolution brings meaning to the entire journey. This is what happens when you assume it's the end of a relationship simply because someone has distanced themselves. You stop believing in the possibilities. You write the final chapter before it's even been written. You let fear dictate your perspective, convincing yourself that the distance means it's over. But here's the truth. Distance does not always mean the end. Sometimes it's a pause, not a full stop. Think about it. Why is our instinct to jump to the worst-case scenario? When someone pulls away, we spiral into thoughts like, they don't care about me anymore, or this is it, they're done with me. But is that really true? Or are those assumptions your mind's way of protecting you from the unknown? The Stoics teach us that our suffering often comes not from what happens, but from how we interpret it. It is not the things themselves that disturb us, Epictetus said, but our judgments about them. When you assume it's the end, you rob yourself of the chance to let things naturally unfold. You begin acting from a place of fear, sending panic messages, pulling away yourself, or making impulsive decisions. These reactions don't serve the relationship. In fact, they often create the very outcome you fear most. By assuming the worst, you close the door prematurely on what might simply be a chapter of growth. Let me ask you this. Is it possible that this distance is not about rejection but reflection? That the space they're taking has more to do with their personal challenges than with you? What if this pause is necessary for both of you to gain clarity and perspective? Relationships, like the seasons, go through cycles. Winter doesn't mean the tree is dead. It's a time of stillness before new growth. Just because the connection feels distant now doesn't mean it won't flourish again when the time is right. So what should you do instead of assuming the worst? First, remind yourself that uncertainty is not a threat, it's an opportunity. This is your chance to step back, breathe, and trust the process. Focus on what you can control: your mindset, your actions, and your ability to grow through the discomfort. Second, resist the urge to close the book. Instead of acting as if the relationship is over, hold space for patience and possibility. That doesn't mean waiting passively. It means staying grounded, calm, and open to what comes next without forcing it. Trust that whatever happens will be what's meant for you, even if it's not what you expected. Third, ask yourself, how can I use this time to become stronger? Distance is an opportunity for reflection. What have you learned about yourself through this challenge? Are there areas where you can grow? Relationships are often our greatest teachers. Sometimes the space you fear is exactly what's needed for both people to reconnect in a healthier, more meaningful way. And what if ultimately the relationship doesn't return to what it was? That's still not the end. It's simply the beginning of a new chapter, one where you emerge wiser, stronger, and more resilient. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot control whether someone chooses to stay, but you can control how you respond to the uncertainty. Imagine a foggy bridge stretching across a vast river. You can't see the other side. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. The only way to find out what lies ahead is to keep walking, one step at a time. Trust that clarity will come, even if you can't see it now. That's what it means to embrace the journey, not fear it. If you've already assumed the worst, don't be hard on yourself. We all do it. The mind is wired to seek certainty in moments of discomfort. But here's your chance to shift your perspective. Instead of seeing distance as the end, see it as a test of your patience, your trust, and your growth. You are not powerless here. You have the power to choose a new response, a response rooted in calm, strength, and faith in yourself. And if the fear creeps back in, remind yourself of this simple truth. The story isn't over yet. Your life, your relationships, your growth, these are all still unfolding. Don't rush to the conclusion. Allow yourself to stand in the uncertainty with grace. Who you become in these moments matters far more than the outcome itself. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to like this video and comment number 1 below. Let me know that you're ready to trust the journey, to hold space for possibility, and to grow stronger through the unknown. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more content like this. Content that challenges you, strengthens you, and helps you navigate life's storms with wisdom and resilience. The greatest transformations often come from the moments we least expect. Keep going. Keep growing. The story isn't over yet. 5. Avoid playing games. Don't ignore them in return. Imagine a game of tug-of-war. The rope represents your connection, but one day the person you care about drops their end and steps back. Your first instinct might be to let go of the rope too, to mirror their distance, to ignore them in return, to teach them a lesson. You convince yourself this is a way to regain control, to protect yourself. But what happens next? The connection snaps entirely. The space between you grows larger, and you're both left on opposite sides, further apart than ever. It's tempting to match their behavior. They ignore you, so you ignore them. They stop calling, so you refuse to reach out. It feels like a way to level the playing field, as if you're proving that you don't care either. But here's the truth. Playing games is not power, it's weakness. When you respond to distance with more distance, you're not building bridges, you're building walls. Instead of fostering understanding, you create silence and misunderstanding. Instead of creating space for resolution, you fuel a cycle of avoidance and hurt. Ask yourself, is this truly who I want to be? Do I want to act from a place of pride and pettiness, or from a place of strength and authenticity? The desire to mirror someone's behavior often comes from fear, the fear of appearing vulnerable, of caring too much, of being the one who loses. But relationships are not a battlefield. You're not in a competition to see who can care less. Stoicism reminds us that true power lies in self-mastery, not in manipulation. You don't win by playing games. You win by showing up as the strongest, most composed version of yourself, regardless of what the other person is doing. Now you might be thinking, but if I don't ignore them back, won't I look weak? Won't they think I'm desperate? Let me challenge that thought. Strength is not in ignoring someone. Strength is in choosing a response that aligns with your values. Ignoring someone in return isn't strength, it's avoidance. And avoidance rarely leads to resolution or personal growth. Instead of reacting impulsively, pause and reflect. Why do I feel the need to play games? What am I trying to protect myself from? Often we use avoidance as a shield. By ignoring them, we think we're protecting our ego, proving our independence, or punishing them for pulling away. But Stoic wisdom teaches us to question these reactions. Are you acting out of pride, or are you acting from a place of clarity and intention? Here's what I want you to consider. Ignoring someone might give you a momentary sense of satisfaction, but it doesn't serve the long-term health of the relationship or your own personal growth. It creates an environment of distrust, confusion, and unnecessary tension. Instead of addressing the real issue, why they pulled away, you get stuck in a game of emotional ping pong, where no one wins and nothing gets resolved. So what should you do instead? First, don't chase, but don't close the door either. Take a step back, but leave space for healthy, authentic communication when the time is right. If you feel the need to express yourself, do so calmly and with respect. A simple message like, I notice some distance, and I want you to know I'm here if you'd like to talk, communicates maturity and emotional stability. It's not desperate, it's grounded. It's a message that says, I care, but I'm not going to force anything. Second, remind yourself that your worth is not defined by how someone else treats you. Just because they pulled away doesn't mean you need to match their actions. Stoicism teaches us that we are responsible for our own behavior, not for the behavior of others. Responding with integrity, regardless of their actions, reinforces your self-respect. You don't lose power by showing care. You lose power by allowing someone else's actions to dictate your own. Third, focus on what you can control, your own life, your own growth, and your own peace of mind. If someone is pulled away, that's their choice. You cannot control their actions, but you can control how you respond. Instead of playing games, redirect your energy inward. Pursue the things that make you feel strong and fulfilled. Build a life that doesn't depend on anyone else's validation. Remember, relationships thrive on trust and authenticity, not on competition. When you resist the urge to play games, you're sending a powerful message. I am strong enough to be true to myself, no matter what you choose to do. That kind of strength is rare. It's the kind of strength that draws people in, not through manipulation, but through respect. Now, I know this isn't easy. When emotions are high, it's natural to want to match someone's distance with your own. But that's where the real test lies. Can you rise above the need to win and instead act in alignment with your values? Can you stay grounded, calm, and true to yourself, even when someone else's actions feel hurtful or confusing? As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. You don't have to ignore them just because they're ignoring you. You can choose a response that reflects your strength and integrity. And what if you've already played games? What if you've ignored them back and now regret it? That's okay. Mistakes are part of the journey. Recognize where you went wrong and choose to do better moving forward. If the opportunity arises, communicate with honesty and humility. I realize I may have mirrored your distance, and I'd like to approach this differently. That kind of authenticity is powerful because it shows growth. When you choose not to play games, you're not just saving the relationship, you're saving yourself. You're protecting your self-respect, your peace, and your ability to navigate challenges with wisdom. And that is far more valuable than any fleeting sense of control you might gain by ignoring someone in return. So let the tug-of-war rope fall. Step away from the game. Focus on your own path, your own growth, and your own peace of mind. Trust that the right people, the people who value you, will recognize your strength and meet you halfway. And if they don't, you'll still stand tall, knowing you stayed true to yourself. Because in the end, the strongest person is not the one who plays games. It's the one who chooses connection over competition, integrity over manipulation, and growth over pride. That's who you are. And that's who you're becoming. 6. Don't blame yourself excessively. Imagine you're walking through life carrying a backpack. Each time someone pulls away or distances themselves, you pick up a stone, one that whispers doubts. What did I do wrong? Was I not good enough? Did I push them away? One by one, you place these stones in your backpack, and before you know it, the weight is unbearable. You're stuck, immobilized by guilt and self-blame. When someone distances themselves, it's natural to look inward and question your role. Self-reflection is healthy. It's how we grow and improve. But there's a difference between taking responsibility for your actions and shouldering the blame for something that isn't entirely yours to carry. Relationships are a two-way street. No connection, no matter how meaningful, rests solely on your shoulders. Ask yourself, why do I feel responsible for their distance? Is it because you think if you had just said the right thing, done more, or been someone better, they would have stayed? That's the trap of excessive self-blame. It convinces you that their behavior is a reflection of your worth, as if you're not enough as you are. But here's the truth. You are not responsible for someone else's actions, feelings, or choices. And think of it like this. You are the captain of your own ship. You can steer it with purpose, but you can't control the weather, the waves, or whether someone else decides to stay aboard. Blaming yourself for their choices is like apologizing for the storm. It's beyond your control. The only thing you can control is how you respond to the experience. So what can you do when self-blame starts to creep in? First, remind yourself of this critical truth. Their distance is not a reflection of my worth. Repeat it as often as you need to. Write it down. Say it out loud. The Stoics teach us that external circumstances, how others behave, are beyond our control. It's how we interpret those circumstances that determines our emotional peace. Second, take a step back and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Reflection is not about assigning blame. It's about identifying lessons. Maybe there's a communication pattern you can improve on. Maybe the distance is teaching you to set healthier boundaries or to value your own independence more. Growth comes not from drowning in guilt, but from understanding what the situation can teach you and applying it moving forward. Third, release the idea of perfection. You are human and humans make mistakes. Holding yourself to an impossible standard of always saying or doing the right thing will only lead to frustration and self-criticism. Accept that you did the best you could with the knowledge and tools you had at the time. And when you know better, you'll do better. That's how growth works. If you feel like you're carrying a heavy load of self-blame right now, I want you to picture yourself setting down that backpack. One by one, take out the stones of guilt and self-doubt. Hold them in your hand and ask yourself, is this truly mine to carry? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, If there's something you can learn, then carry it as wisdom, not as a burden. Let me share something powerful. Blaming yourself excessively doesn't just hurt you, it hurts your relationships. When you operate from a place of guilt, you lose confidence in yourself. You become fearful, overly apologetic, and hesitant to express your true thoughts and feelings. This kind of self-doubt often pushes people further away because it communicates that you don't see your own value. So what happens when you choose to stop blaming yourself? You reclaim your power. You recognize that while you're not perfect, you're still worthy of love, respect, and connection. You stop apologizing for things that aren't yours to apologize for. You learn to stand tall and say, "I am enough, exactly as I am." And what if someone tries to place the blame on you? What if their actions or words make you feel responsible for their distance? Pause and reflect. Are they projecting their own challenges onto you? Are they holding you accountable for something that is theirs to work through? Remember, you don't have to accept responsibility for someone else's emotional state. You can acknowledge their feelings without absorbing them as your own. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot control how someone perceives you, but you can control how you perceive yourself. If you've already been stuck in a cycle of self-blame, it's not too late to let go. Start by forgiving yourself. Say it out loud. I forgive myself for the things I cannot control. I am learning. I am growing. Forgiveness is not about excusing your mistakes. It's about releasing yourself from the chains of guilt that hold you back. Now, take a moment to reflect. What are the ways you've been blaming yourself unnecessarily? What would it feel like to let that go? Imagine standing tall, lighter, and freer, knowing that your worth doesn't depend on someone else's actions or approval. If this is something you're ready to embrace, I invite you to take action today. Like this video and comment number 1 below if this message resonated with you. Let me know that you're choosing to release self-blame, to learn from the situation, and to move forward with strength and clarity. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to this channel. This is a space for growth, for wisdom, and for navigating life's challenges with the strength of Stoicism. Together, we'll continue learning, growing, and becoming the best versions of ourselves, no matter what life throws our way. You are not defined by someone else's distance. You are defined by how you respond to it. So set down the stones, release the guilt, and remind yourself, I am enough, exactly as I am. Are you ready to let go of unnecessary blame and stand in your own strength? Then let's keep going. There's so much more to learn, and the journey is only just beginning. 7. Don't sit in the dark waiting for them. Picture this. You're in a room. The lights are off. It's quiet, suffocatingly so. You're sitting in a chair, staring at a door that doesn't budge, hoping desperately that it will open. You replay conversations, second-guess your actions, and imagine scenarios where they come back. Time slows down, and as the hours turn to days, you realize something. You're not just waiting for them. You're putting your entire life on hold. When someone distances themselves, it's tempting to stop everything and wait. You stop chasing your goals, abandon your routines, and lose interest in the things that once brought you joy. You become consumed by the silence, checking your phone, scanning for any sign of their return. This waiting in the dark feels like the only thing you can do, like you're proving your care, loyalty, and devotion. But here's the truth. Waiting doesn't bring them back. It only diminishes you. Ask yourself this. What are you sacrificing while you sit in the dark? Your energy, your joy, your growth? By waiting for someone to reappear, you place your happiness in their hands. You give away your power, as if your life can only move forward once they decide to return. But life doesn't pause for anyone, and the more you wait, the more you lose sight of yourself. Let's take a step back. Why do we wait? What makes us feel like putting our lives on hold is the right response when someone steps away? For many, it's fear. Fear that if we move on, we'll lose them forever. Fear that focusing on ourselves means we didn't care enough. Or perhaps it's hope that if we stay still, they'll come back and everything will be as it was. But as the Stoics teach us, hope and fear are two sides of the same coin. Both tie you to outcomes beyond your control. and in doing so, they rob you of your peace. So what's the alternative? If waiting doesn't serve you, what should you do instead? The answer lies in shifting your focus inward, on what you can control, and on the life that is still yours to live. Imagine this moment as an opportunity. Instead of waiting, you can choose to rise. Instead of sitting in the dark, you can turn on the light. Start with small, intentional steps. Wake up and create a routine that nourishes you. Reconnect with the things that bring you joy, your passions, your hobbies, your friendships. Pursue goals you've been putting off, even if they feel small at first. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a declaration. I refuse to let someone else's actions hold me back. You might worry that focusing on yourself means you're giving up on the relationship, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Choosing to live fully doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself too. It's about acknowledging that your life has value and purpose beyond any single person. It's about recognizing that you deserve joy, fulfillment, and growth regardless of what anyone else chooses to do. Think of yourself as a sunflower in a vast field. When the sun disappears behind the clouds, the sunflower doesn't stop growing. It doesn't wither or shrink. It continues to stand tall, trusting that the sun will shine again. And when it does, the sunflower will still be there, strong, vibrant, and thriving. You are that sunflower. You can keep growing no matter what's happening around you. Now, ask yourself, what would it feel like to reclaim this time for yourself? What dreams, passions, or goals have you been neglecting while you've been sitting in the dark? Maybe it's something as simple as reading a book, taking a class, or spending time with friends who make you laugh. Maybe it's diving into a creative pursuit, starting a fitness journey, or exploring new interests. The point is this: the world is still full of opportunities for you, and you don't have to wait for anyone to begin exploring them. If you find yourself struggling to take those first steps, remind yourself of this. The strongest relationships are built between two whole people, not between one person who's thriving and another who's waiting in the shadows. By choosing to live fully, you're not closing the door on the relationship, you're creating the space for it to breathe. You're showing them, and yourself, that your happiness does not hinge on their presence. And if they do return, they'll find someone who is strong, confident, and fulfilled, not someone who lost themselves in their absence. But what if they don't come back? What if the door never opens? That's the fear, isn't it? The what if. But consider this. If they choose not to return, does that mean your time spent waiting was worth it? Or would you rather have spent that time growing into the person you're meant to become? The version of you who thrives despite uncertainty, who refuses to let their worth be defined by someone else's actions. As the poet Rumi reminds us, don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form. Life is full of seasons. Some people stay for a while, and some step away. But every experience, whether joyful or painful, leads to growth. By choosing to live fully, you honor the season you're in, rather than waiting for one that may never come. Let me share a vision with you. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You've used this time to nurture your passions, deepen your relationships, and chase your goals. You've built a life that excites you, a life that feels full and meaningful. Now imagine how you'll look back on this moment. Will you see it as the time you lost yourself waiting for someone else? Or will you see it as the moment you chose to rise, to reclaim your light, and to thrive? Because here's the truth: sitting in the dark doesn't serve you. Waiting doesn't heal you. Living does. Growth does. Moving forward does. You don't have to close the door on hope, but you do have to open the door to yourself, to the life that is still waiting for you, ready to be lived. So stand up, turn on the light, and remind yourself, I will not wait. I will thrive. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one where you reclaim your time, your purpose, and your joy. The door may open or it may not, but either way you will have built a life that shines brightly, no matter what. 8. Don't post on social media to get their attention. Imagine this. You're standing on the edge of a calm, quiet lake. You pick up a stone, throw it in, and watch as ripples spread across the water. You hope those ripples will reach someone on the other side, that they'll see them and come back. But the truth is, they rarely notice. And even if they do, the ripples fade, leaving the water as still as it was before. This is exactly what happens when you post on social media to get someone's attention. You're throwing stones into the digital world, cryptic quotes, carefully curated photos, or "look how happy I am" stories, hoping they'll see it, react, or come back. It feels like you're taking action, like you're proving something. But in reality, these actions often come across as performative, transparent, and even desperate. They don't draw someone back. They only diminish your self-respect. So why do we do it? Why is there such a strong urge to use social media as a tool to provoke, to hint, or to get noticed? The answer is simple. We're looking for validation. We think if they see how great I'm doing, maybe they'll regret pulling away. Or worse, if I make them jealous, they'll come back. But Stoicism reminds us that seeking validation from others, especially through indirect and manipulative means, does not bring us peace. It only creates more confusion for them and for ourselves. Ask yourself this: why am I posting this? Is it to express myself authentically, or is it to provoke a reaction? If the answer is the latter, pause, because here's the truth. If someone has pulled away, your carefully crafted social media posts will not change that. You cannot force someone to care or to come back. And any response you get from such actions will be shallow and fleeting. Is that really what you want? Let me challenge you to look deeper. When you post for attention, you're giving away your power. You're placing your worth in someone else's hands, hoping they'll see you, acknowledge you, and validate you. But here's the question. Do you want to be noticed because you've staged your life to appear perfect, or because you're genuinely living a life that reflects your values, joy, and authenticity? When you use social media to manipulate attention, it doesn't just affect your self-respect. It weakens the very connection you hope to restore. Instead of fostering honest communication, you're playing games, trying to provoke jealousy or curiosity instead of addressing the issue directly. This doesn't build bridges, it builds barriers. And even if they do reach out because of something you posted, you'll always wonder, did they come back because they care or because I manipulated their response? So what should you do instead? First, step away from social media, at least for a while. If you feel the urge to post something just to get their attention, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this action aligned with who I want to be? A Stoic mindset reminds us to act with intention and integrity, not impulsively or out of desperation. Second, redirect your focus inward. If you're tempted to post something perfect to show them how happy you are, ask yourself, am I actually happy? Am I living a life that fulfills me, or am I just pretending? Instead of crafting a highlight reel, focus on building a life that feels real. Spend time doing things that bring you genuine joy and connection. Things that you'd want to share not because you need attention, but because they reflect who you truly are. Third, let your actions, not your posts, speak for themselves. True confidence doesn't need to be broadcasted. True growth doesn't require an audience. When you focus on living fully, the right people will notice, not because you force them to, but because authenticity is magnetic. Think about it this way. A lighthouse doesn't chase ships or frantically signal to get noticed. It simply shines its light. It stands tall, steady, and true, guiding those who seek its light. You are that lighthouse. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone through carefully staged posts or subtle jabs. Your light, your strength, your growth, your authenticity will speak for itself. Now, what if you've already made this mistake? What if you've posted something and now feel embarrassed or regretful? First, forgive yourself. You're human. You're navigating a difficult moment, and it's natural to seek reassurance when you feel hurt or unsure. But here's the good news. Every moment is an opportunity to choose differently. Let this be a lesson, not a burden. Recognize the urge for what it is, a search for external validation, and choose to validate yourself instead. If you need to express something, do it directly and with integrity. If you need to process your emotions, do it privately, journal, talk to a trusted friend, or reflect in silence. Social media is not a solution to emotional pain. It's a distraction, a temporary fix that often leaves you feeling emptier than before. Ask yourself, What would it feel like to live a life so fulfilling that I don't need to broadcast it for validation? That's the goal. That's the kind of life you're building, not one that depends on likes, comments, or someone else's attention, but one that is full, meaningful, and aligned with your values. And let's be honest, if someone truly cares about you, they won't need social media posts to remember your value. The right people will see you for who you are, not for what you post. And the most important person who needs to see your worth, you. So take a step back. Put down the phone. Focus on living, not performing. Let your life, your real, genuine, beautiful life, become the thing that shines. And trust that the people who are meant to be part of your journey will recognize that light, not because you chased them, but because you stood tall and lived fully. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You are enough without the posts, without the games, without the need for external validation. Live your life with intention and let your actions speak louder than anything you could ever share online. If this message connects with you and you're ready to focus on living authentically, I invite you to hit that like button and comment number 1 below. Let me know you're choosing to step away from games and step into your true self. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more content that empowers you to live with strength, clarity, and wisdom, rooted in the timeless principles of Stoicism. You don't need to prove your worth, you just need to live it. 9. Don't involve others in the situation. Imagine scattering seeds into the wind, hoping they'll land in the right place and grow. But the wind carries them far and wide beyond your control. Instead of sprouting where you intended, they scatter aimlessly, lost in places they were never meant to be. This is what happens when you involve others in a personal situation where someone has distanced themselves. What you share, your emotions, frustrations, and confusion, can be misinterpreted, spread, or even twisted into something unintended. When someone pulls away or ignores you, the uncertainty can feel unbearable. You want answers, clarity, or reassurance. The urge to turn to friends, family, or even mutual acquaintances for advice or validation feels natural. You tell yourself, I need someone to talk to, or maybe they can help me understand what's happening. But here's the danger. Involving others can quickly make the situation more complicated, more confusing, and even more damaging. Ask yourself, what am I hoping to achieve by bringing others into this? Are you looking for comfort, support, answers? Or are you hoping someone will fix the problem for you? When you involve others, even with the best of intentions, you invite outside perspectives that may not align with the truth. They don't have the full picture, only what you tell them, filtered through your own hurt and frustration. What happens next? You create unnecessary noise. Friends might take sides, offer biased opinions, or attempt to intervene. Mutual acquaintances might check in on the person for you, unintentionally adding pressure. Instead of helping, this involvement often makes the distance between you and the other person even greater. Why? Because trust is broken. Personal matters are no longer private. Now, let's dig deeper. Why do we turn to others in moments like these? Sometimes it's because we don't trust ourselves to handle the situation alone. We're looking for validation, confirmation that we're right, that they're wrong, that we haven't made mistakes. Or perhaps it's because sitting in the discomfort of not knowing feels unbearable, and talking to others offers temporary relief. But Stoicism teaches us this. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. These challenging moments where you feel uncertain, lost, and vulnerable are where you build the most strength. So what can you do instead of seeking answers or reassurance from others? First, turn inward. Sit with the discomfort. Instead of running from it, lean into it and ask yourself, what am I feeling? Why is this situation affecting me so deeply? This is an opportunity to reflect, to learn about yourself, and to gain clarity without external interference. Second, protect the integrity of the relationship, even when it feels strained. Involving others doesn't show strength. It shows that you're looking outside of yourself for solutions to something deeply personal. If you need to communicate with the person who has distanced themselves, do so directly. Keep the door open for honesty and resolution, not through intermediaries or whispered conversations. Third, seek guidance, not gossip. There's a difference between venting to anyone who will listen and seeking grounded, thoughtful advice from someone you trust and respect. If you need perspective, choose wisely. Speak to someone who can remain objective, someone who will guide you back to yourself instead of adding fuel to your emotional fire. Better yet, turn to tools that foster self-reflection. Journaling, meditation, or reading philosophies like Stoicism, which encourage calm, measured responses. Because here's the truth. When you involve others unnecessarily, you risk losing control of the narrative. What starts as a personal challenge becomes a public drama. The more people involved, the less room there is for genuine resolution. The other person may feel betrayed or cornered, as if their privacy has been invaded. Instead of working through the issue, they might step even further back to regain their sense of autonomy. But what if you've already made this mistake? What if you've talked to too many people or allowed others to intervene? First, forgive yourself. Recognize that your actions likely came from a place of pain and confusion. Then take responsibility. If appropriate, communicate directly with the person who pulled away. I realize I may have involved others in something that was between us, and I regret that. I want to handle this with respect and honesty moving forward. A sincere acknowledgement can go a long way toward rebuilding trust. The strongest relationships are built on trust, privacy, and mutual respect. By keeping matters between you and the other person, you show them and yourself that you value the connection enough to handle it maturely. You prove that you don't need external validation to navigate challenges. This is what emotional strength looks like. Trusting yourself to manage the situation with integrity, even when it's uncomfortable. And what about the people you've leaned on so far? If they care about you, they'll understand when you step back and choose to handle things privately. True friends will respect your decision to honor the relationship, even in its difficult moments. Let them know you appreciate their support, but that you're choosing to navigate this path with greater care and intention. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "To be trusted is a greater compliment than to be loved." Trust is fragile. It's built over time through actions that demonstrate care, honesty, and respect. When you resist the urge to involve others and instead handle the situation with maturity, you strengthen that trust, not just with the other person, but with yourself. So let me ask you, what would it feel like to trust yourself fully in this moment? To sit with the discomfort, to seek clarity within, and to protect the integrity of the connection, regardless of how it unfolds. That's the challenge, and that's where your growth lies. You don't need an audience to validate your pain or to offer solutions. You are capable of navigating this moment with strength, wisdom, and grace. Keep your energy focused inward. Protect the space between you and the other person, and trust that whatever comes next, you will handle it with integrity, because that is who you are becoming. When you choose not to involve others, you're choosing trust over interference, growth over gossip, and strength over desperation. And in the end, that choice speaks louder than anything you could ever say. 10. Don't assume it's the end. Imagine you're reading a book, and suddenly the story takes an unexpected turn. The characters drift apart, the conflict rises, and uncertainty fills the pages. It's easy to feel discouraged, to close the book, and assume the story is over. But what if you kept reading? What if, beyond the current chaos, there's resolution, growth, and meaning waiting to unfold? You'll never know unless you turn the page. This is what happens when we assume it's the end of a relationship simply because someone has distanced themselves or ignored us. The pain of uncertainty tricks us into believing the worst. Our minds fill with thoughts like "they're done with me," or "this will never be fixed." And so, out of fear, we give up. We shut the door prematurely, convinced there's no hope. But the truth is, most stories don't end in a single chapter. Relationships, like life, are filled with unexpected pauses, twists, and cycles of growth. So let me ask you, what are you afraid of when you assume it's the end? Is it the fear of rejection? The fear of being left behind? Or maybe it's the discomfort of not knowing where you stand. Our minds crave certainty, even when it doesn't serve us. We'd rather assume the worst than sit with the ambiguity. But here's where Stoicism offers a lifeline. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The fact is, someone pulling away does not always mean the relationship is over. People take space for countless reasons: personal struggles, stress, confusion, or a need for clarity. Their distance may have very little to do with you and everything to do with what they're facing internally. By assuming it's the end, you're not only sabotaging the connection, you're robbing yourself of the opportunity to grow through the experience. Instead of jumping to conclusions, take a deep breath and pause. Remind yourself, this moment is not the final chapter. The discomfort you're feeling right now is part of the process. It's teaching you patience, resilience, and the power of surrender. You cannot force someone to come back, but you can control how you respond to their absence. Here's what I want you to do. Shift your focus away from what you fear and toward what you can control. Instead of obsessing over their absence, use this time for reflection and growth. Ask yourself, what has this experience taught me about myself? How can I grow stronger through this challenge? Am I clinging to an outcome, or can I trust the process to unfold naturally? Trust is key here. Trust that if the relationship is meant to be, the space will serve as a bridge, not a barrier. Trust that time apart can bring clarity, not just for them, but for you as well. And trust that even if this chapter closes, your story doesn't end. Life will continue to unfold, and what's ahead may be more beautiful and meaningful than anything you could have imagined. Because here's something powerful to remember. Uncertainty doesn't equal finality. Just because you can't see what's next doesn't mean it's not there. Like walking through fog, the path may not be clear, but that doesn't mean it's gone. Keep moving forward step by step, moment by moment. And what if, ultimately, this chapter does end? What if they don't return? Then let it be an ending that leads to your growth. Let it be the beginning of a new journey, one where you are stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your true self. You are not defined by someone else's presence or absence. You are defined by how you respond, by how you rise, and by the life you build for yourself. If you find yourself spiraling into thoughts of hopelessness, remind yourself of this. Life, like nature, moves in seasons. Winter may feel endless, but spring always comes. Relationships go through cycles of closeness and distance, just as trees shed their leaves in winter and bloom again in spring. The space you fear today might be what allows new growth to emerge tomorrow. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Instead of assuming the worst, choose to see this moment as a chance for transformation. Allow yourself to hope, not for a specific outcome, but for your own growth, clarity, and peace. And here's the most important part. You don't need to close the book just because someone else stepped away. Their actions are not the final word. Your life is still yours to live, and your worth is not tied to their presence. If they return, they will find someone stronger, calmer, and more grounded. And if they don't, you will still stand tall, because you've learned to navigate uncertainty with grace. So I ask you, what would it feel like to trust the journey? To let go of the need for immediate answers and simply allow life to unfold as it's meant to? This is your chance to embrace the unknown, not as a threat, but as an opportunity for growth and discovery. If this message resonates with you, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect. Let go of the need to assume the worst and remind yourself, the story isn't over yet. Whether this relationship continues or not, your journey is far from complete. You are still becoming. You are still growing. And there are countless chapters ahead waiting to be written. If you're ready to trust the journey and embrace this moment with strength and patience, let me know by hitting that like button and commenting number 1 below. Your story matters, and so does your growth. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more videos like this. Videos that remind you of your power, your potential, and your ability to navigate life's challenges with wisdom and clarity. Life is uncertain, but that's where its beauty lies. So don't close the book. Keep turning the pages. Trust the journey, and remember, the story isn't over yet. We've walked through these 10 critical mistakes together, mistakes we often make in moments of fear, confusion, and emotional turmoil. Each one, if left unchecked, has the power to sabotage not only your relationships, but also your sense of self-respect and personal growth. Yet here's what you need to remember. These moments are not your undoing. They are your opportunity to rise. When someone distances themselves or ignores you, the hardest thing to do is to remain calm, grounded, and focused on yourself. But that's precisely where your power lies. Every moment of discomfort, every urge to react impulsively, is a test of your ability to control what you can, your mind, your actions, and your growth. This is what Stoicism teaches us, that the only true control we have is over our response, not over what someone else does or doesn't do. So now it's time for you to ask yourself, which path will I take? Will you lose your calm, or will you choose composure? Will you cling to someone else's actions, or will you respect their space? Will you wait endlessly in the dark, or will you step forward into your own light? Each choice you make, no matter how small, has the power to transform you. Because here's the truth. You don't need someone else's validation to prove your worth. You don't need their attention to live a life that is fulfilling and meaningful. The greatest relationships are not built through desperation or games. They are built when two people, whole and grounded in themselves, choose to walk the path together. If someone pulls away, let it be their choice. Your job is not to chase them, but to focus on the life you are building for yourself. Your growth, your peace, and your happiness are not things to be put on hold. And if they return, they will find someone who has not shrunk in their absence, but who has risen, stronger than ever. And if they don't return, then you will know that you are still whole, still worthy, and still capable of living a beautiful life. Ask yourself now, what have these 10 lessons taught me? Where do I need to grow? And what can I do to begin today? Growth doesn't happen all at once. It happens through small, intentional choices. It happens when you choose calm over chaos, when you trust the process instead of forcing it, and when you focus on yourself instead of losing yourself in someone else. If you're here reading this, it means you care deeply. It means you're trying to navigate something difficult, and that takes courage. I want you to know that you are not alone in this journey. Everyone has faced moments of doubt, confusion, and pain in their relationships. What separates those who grow from those who spiral is how they respond to the challenge. This is your moment. A moment to choose strength, wisdom, and growth. A moment to trust yourself and trust the journey. A moment to realize that no matter what happens next, you have everything you need within you to move forward. The greatest power you hold is your ability to respond to life with intention and purpose. When someone pulls away, don't let it break you. Let it build you. Let it teach you patience, resilience, and the art of staying true to yourself. As the Stoics remind us, the obstacle is the way. This moment may feel like a challenge, but it is also your opportunity for transformation. So as you move forward, carry these affirmations with you. I choose calm over chaos. I trust the process. I will not wait. I will thrive. I am enough, exactly as I am. I trust the journey. Let these words be your guide when the storms of life rise. Let them remind you of your strength, your worth, and your ability to navigate uncertainty with grace. If this video has resonated with you and you're ready to embrace these lessons in your life, I invite you to take action right now. Hit the like button and comment number 1 below to let me know that you're choosing strength, wisdom, and growth moving forward. This small action isn't just for the video. It's a declaration that you're ready to rise above the noise and become the best version of yourself. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel to join a community of people just like you, people committed to personal growth, emotional mastery, and living with purpose. Here we embrace timeless wisdom, stoicism, and the tools to navigate life's challenges with clarity and strength. Remember, your story isn't over yet. Keep turning the pages, keep growing, and trust that the best chapters are still ahead of you. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay strong, stay true to yourself, and never stop growing. You've got this.